Good evening from upstate New York, and welcome to Starcast from Planet Waves. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here with the edition accompanying the horoscope for May 8th, 2025, as well as an article, as well as a new video. The focus of all of my writing today is the Scorpio Full Moon in what I'm calling local news. And then in global or galactic news, I am focusing on the conjunction of Eris and Chiron, which is happening. That's exact on the, I think it's the, hold on a second, it's so many things going on at once. The 27th at midnight, 3 seconds past midnight, New York time, is the, no wonder I'm confusing the 26th and the 27th, is the conjunction of Chiron and Eris at 25 degrees, 28 arc minutes of Aries. This is the first conjunction of Chiron and Eris since 1971, 1972. I give some of that history, and in the article talk about the situation with digital conditions, full digital conditions, which I think with AI, we are now absolutely irrevocably under. I trace full digital conditions really back to 9/11, the events of Y2K, for example, the stolen election of 2000, symbolized by a computer card. It was right at the turn of the millennium that we entered full digital conditions. But this has increased exponentially, the envelopment, the swallowing, the being completely underneath the water of completely soaked in our minds, our bodies, our relationships, our transactions, our relationships to ourselves, a walk in the park, all full digital conditions. And now we are delegating decisions. This is where society is going, and most people are going to go along. Delegating decisions to these artificial intelligence scripts. So this, to me, is precisely what we are talking about when we're talking about the conjunction of Chiron and Eris. I know this because I know it, because I've been reading these, reading these mundane charts long enough to know how to trace the associations between societies, events, the human impact on each of us and our relationships, and the charts. And it's like, what's the biggest thing going on in the astrology? What's the biggest thing going on in the world? Are there parallels? Is there some way to see a matchup between these things? And if you go back through the history of studying the astrology of the history of the mass media, you see that it's always events in Aries that portend the next huge, or the ongoing, depending on when, huge transition. And what happens is the transition in the electronic environment becomes the new form that the human psyche takes. Has nothing whatsoever to do with what is conveyed by the media. With the book, for example, it's how learning to read forced the eye to see a whole new way. It's a completely other way of seeing. And every new evolution of media has that kind of profound total workover shift in humanity. Most people completely miss this. We see certain elements of the damage after it's happened, and then we are able to complain about them and maybe say, oh, well, maybe next time, or who are we going to sue over this, or why is my kid so messed up, or something like that? Why doesn't my son talk to me? Why hasn't he come out of his room for 6 months or whatever? This is all going on. Well, the full moon, this all is a lot, but the full moon is a more foreground feature. It's the full moon in Scorpio, conjunct Juno, and there's an interesting grand cross pattern in this, which particularly involves Pallas Athene, the asteroid of politics, and Pramzeus, a kind of a Lithuanian Gaia goddess figure. I've said a bit about this in the new YouTube that went out this morning. Thank you all for watching that, clicking on it, making a comment, liking, upvoting, subscribing to the channel. We're playing the YouTube algorithm game. There's no algorithm game here on Substack, but there definitely is an algorithm game on YouTube, and I would ask and indulge in your support and cooperation in doing that. We are not a big money operation. Most of Planet Waves' energy is spent doing Planet Waves and not doing all of this technical mumbo-jumbo game playing and all of this stuff. So that would be very, very helpful, and I would appreciate that. It will simply lead to more people hearing about my work, and that will benefit everyone. Okay, so we have this foreground event, which is the full moon, and the planet Uranus is involved, and Uranus is in the sign Taurus. It's ending its run through Taurus over about the next 9 months. I believe it'll make its first ingress into Gemini in July. It last entered Gemini in 1942. And then we are going to see what we have been missing. Taurus is dense. It is a bit concealed. And when Uranus gets into Gemini, suddenly everything is going to start to unfold and accelerate. And we will see what has happened, and we'll get a much better sense of what is happening. That music is my cue that we're about to end part 1 of Starcast. That's the preview for non-paying subscribers. I want to thank my paying subscribers both on the Planet Waves website and on the Substack system for making sure that all of my work gets to you. There's an odd ethic. One of the weird things about the internet is this disconnect from receiving a product or service and doing your part to make sure that it's there. So I want to thank with my whole heart all of you who recognize that Planet Waves is a business. It is an ethical business. It is a business where you can call me up and talk to me. It's a very special place, Planet Waves. We've been around since 1998 under the name Planet Waves. So we ain't no blog and we ain't no Substack. We are original pioneers of Internet 1.0. And if you're one of the people who wants to be a subscriber but has a financial limitation of some kind, write to me at efc@planetwaves.net, and I will take care of you. There are lots of ways to work this out. We only want you to pay what you can, and if you can't pay anything at all, that's fine. Just tell me, and I will comp you. All right. Stay tuned for part 2. All right. Welcome to part 2 of Starcast for May the 8th. That was Brian Eno, Forgotten Planet. Still with the Sun and Taurus, we'll be doing all Eno on every channel, on every program, every podcast, and every Planet Waves FM until the Sun enters Gemini. We've got selections from Passengers, a collaboration between U2 and Brian Eno. coming up as part of tomorrow night's, as in Friday night's Planet Waves FM, where I will continue the discussion of many of these things and invite you to join me for kind of storytelling hour. Okay, so one of the things I'm getting at in this edition is that there is astrology that is in the foreground that seems more like the figure, and that'd be the full moon, for example. Like you can walk outside your door and the thing is like gleaming at you down from the sky. And then there is the background astrology. There's stuff lurking way far in the background, invisible to the naked eye. Some of it is going on, and we don't even know that it is going on. I think probably for our lifetimes, we have enough planets to last us for a long time. I mean, for example, at the time Chiron was discovered, it was minor planet number 2060, 2060 Chiron. Just going to make sure that's absolutely true. I sometimes confuse it with another number, 2060, 2060 Chiron. That's correct. Chiron's official minor planet center number is 2060, written in parentheses, 2060 Chiron. That means that time Chiron was entered into the minor planet catalog, there were only 2060 known bodies orbiting our sun, mainly asteroids, because the main planets don't get numbers. So it was basically 2060 asteroids of a diversity of varieties. By 1977, when Chiron was discovered, this number was probably assigned in 78, excuse me. Today, there are more than 1 million planets in the catalog. This is 1 million planets orbiting our sun. I'm not talking about exoplanets. I don't go near exoplanets. I think that I have studied the ways of the astronomers who are discovering the exoplanets, and maybe somebody could help me out here, but I don't see a use for them in astrology. They orbit fixed stars, so they're going to be part of the astrology of fixed stars. So all the planets I talk about orbiting our sun, and our sun now is known to have more than 1 million bodies discovered. Some of them have been given formal catalog numbers. Some of them still have their provisional designation. So, Chiron was, Chiron's provisional dezigation was, I used to have all this stuff, 1977 UB. I went to a place called UB for undergraduate. It's easy to remember, 1977 UB. So a lot of them have those provisional numbers. Most of them have permanent catalog numbers, but they're all orbiting the sun. And this is like a little bit like between the difference of like in 1998, when Planet Waves went on the internet, there were like 200,000 websites total the world over. And now there's like 5 billion websites the world over. That's the kind of exponential growth we're talking about when we go from 2060 known bodies at the time of the discovery of Chiron all the way up to in the billions. Let's just ask the Google machine, how many websites, forget about active, in the world. So let's see what it says. This is a bullshit number, because was every Substack included, every Facebook page included, question mark, every YouTube channel included? No. But there are 101.119 billion websites on the internet today, of which 193 million are active. Do we include, YouTube channels? And so but still, that number, just under 200 million, is crazy. And there's no way to keep track of this. And there's no way to make sense of this. There's no way to index it. We wonder why it even exists, but it is proliferating. And when we talk about 1 million planets, that's what we're talking about. And among those 1 million planets, there are ones that stand out that are very important. They're important in the history of astronomy. They're important in the way that astrologers have handled them. And 2 of them are Chiron and Eris. So Chiron is discovered in 1977 by Charles Kowal, and what makes it so special is that it's like halfway between an asteroid, a comet, and a planet. That's like half man, half bear, half pig. It's half planet, half asteroid, and half comet. And technically, Chiron is a huge, as in 160 kilometers across, mostly icy comet nucleus. Okay, 50.7-year orbit. Okay, that was a watershed moment in astronomy because no planet had ever been found quite in that kind of orbit, which comes very close to the sun, and then it goes out and it crosses Saturn's orbit, it grazes Uranus, and then it comes all the way back in close to the sun. Chiron was considered the first centaur. Now, for those of you who are into this kind of thing, it might be interesting to know that a point called Hidalgo, Hidalgo, I believe it would be 944 Hidalgo. Let's see, it's also a state in Mexico, named for a priest, all named for the same guy. 944 Hidalgo was discovered in 1920 with a very elliptical orbit that crosses Jupiter's orbit, and it retroactively was made the first centaur. So Chiron is not the first centaur. And there was always something about Hidalgo that I especially loved, and I understood its theme to have this kind of nonconformist standout theme, very similar to what Chiron has. Right? Very, very similar concepts, although Chiron is a bit more intense. But Padre Hidalgo himself is credited with the Roman Catholic priest, credited with starting the Mexican Revolution. So that, well, I'll come back to that story someday. But Chiron in 1977 is a watershed moment, and then there begins like the kind of I don't know, the last march of the Ents, borrowing from Lord of the Rings. But it was the last. Unbelievable, right? I mean, we're talking 45 years ago. It starts in the early 80s, 45 years ago. The last great movement of astrologers who do something original with a new discovery. After that, pretty much it was kind of not so friendly chaos in astrology. And just as the centaurs are starting to catch on, Project Hindsight, founded by my good friend Rob Hand and Rob Schmidt, who I considered a friend who taught me a great deal, Rob Zoller, a guy in my community, I've met all these guys, start Project Hindsight, and they start retrieving the old documents from all the previous eras in astrology. And this kind of fits with the McLuhan family maxim, digital retrieves medieval. So all through the digital era, really, like, for the first, well, it starts in 93, I think, is when Hindsight starts. So it's kind of early in the pre-digital era, or the pre-total digital era. All of these old texts are being retrieved and translated, and they're damned interesting. But they speak about another world. They talk about another world, and the centaurs are very much about our world and the crisis that we face. Yes, they're mostly named for figures from Greek mythology, but the kinds of complex dilemmas that are described in the centaurs, the profound need for healing, the profound need for awareness, that's all concentrated in Chiron, and the journey of healing and awakening that is at the very essence of Chiron. This is emergent, starting with the discovery in 77, but it really gets underway with Al Morrison. By the way, there's a video interview recently put on YouTube. It's Eric Francis interviews Zane Stein. If anybody requested in the comments, I will add the video to the comments. Otherwise, it's easy to Google, and it's me basically getting Zane Stein, who's kind of Tom Bombadillo of Centaur astrology, to tell stories of the development of Chiron. Okay, so there's really nothing counted as a major discovery until Eris in 2003. We don't really hear about Eris till 2004 or so, and it's given the provisional name Xena, Xena, probably correctly pronounced Jana. named for Xena, the warrior princess, a TV show. And that was all we had to go by. We had an ephemeris. We had this provisional name to go by. And my old friend Paloma, my friend and confidant in Paris, who was something of one of my most important photography teachers. She had taught photography at the University of Chicago, and she was a photo editor for Book of Blue for quite a while. She was one of the first Book of Blue models. I just saw those photos last night. They are absolutely, utterly breathtaking. But Paloma, also a very good astrologer, and she said, this thing is about postmodernism. You can tell because the story structure of Xena, the warrior princess, is completely postmodern. One day she's in Bethlehem at the birth of Jesus, and then the next day she's in Times Square in New York. Next week she's in Times Square in New York, and the show had written into its concept the ability to jump around in time and in space like that. So finally they named this thing after, so the postmodern theme is very important. Finally they named this thing Eris in the summer of 2006. By the way, I got that wrong in the video. Discovered in 03, named in 06. Discovered by the famous discovery team of Chad Trujillo, Mike Brown, and Dave Rabinowitz. This is like Caltech, University of Hawaii, Yale University. These guys discovered a lot of planets together. They were just freaking good at it. And Eris is named because it is this emergent factor in the time of total, complete, irrevocable chaos. And the chaos, though no one really was saying it at the time, the chaos was and remains the chaos of digital conditions. And Eris, discovered in 2003, just 2 years after 9/11, is this sigil of the digital age. But when you go back in time and you look at for example, the conjunctions of Uranus and Eris over time, of Chiron and Eris over time, you see the same kind of total upheaval in the world created by some major transition and introduction of a totally new, all-consuming media environment. For example, radio, which totally changed the world and led to World War I and World War II, were both products of the introduction of radio. You see that particularly in Aries, there are major transitions of society and the concept of what a person is when there's big events in Aries, and they often happen to include Eris, and sometimes they include Chiron and Eris. And so we know we are at this massive watershed moment, and right now we are at the epicenter of this watershed moment. It is really quite amazing that we are here and we get to be witnesses to this. My take on this is that Eris brings this kind of dismantling chaos. Chiron brings focus. Chiron is much more Saturnian than we give it credit for. Chiron is kind of like this portable Saturn utility that has the ability to point out the source of chaos and then help bring order, understanding, and organization to whatever it is that Eris is describing. Whatever it is Eris is describing. And so we are in this moment where I think it is absolutely ultra necessary that we deal with what is happening to us, to society, to our children, to all of the structures that hold up life, to basically everything. I mean, we here in the United States have seen absolute utter chaos raining down on us since January 20th, 2025. Absolute, complete, and utter chaos raining down. And the same guy who said he was going to lower prices now has slapped tariffs on every country and basically is going to single-handedly, with the stroke of a pen, bring on a recession and once again, like in 2020, close millions of businesses. We have to fucking wake up to what's going on. And I am doing my best to soft pedal this and not to sound like Chicken fucking Little saying the sky is falling. But I am here to tell you that we are going to be in very deep trouble if a whole bunch of us don't wake up to what's going on and at least start to deal with the problem in some way. And one of the most important ways we can deal with the problem is to recognize the ways in which our humanity is being taken from us. To recognize the ways in which our humanity is systematically being taken from us or just given up voluntarily. People are just signing off on their ability to perceive reality as they might ordinarily, their ability to feel, their ability to experience any form of kindness. The word empathy is way too overused. When I say empathy, I mean actual expressed kindness towards one's brothers and sisters. One of the things to watch out for is the double standard. Do you act differently on the internet than you do in person? When you find yourself doing something on the internet, the question is, would you do this in the world? And more to the point, would you have done this in the world 10 or 20 years ago? And so what we're being conditioned is to, first of all, be cold and mean on the internet, terse and cold and mean and ungenerous, and banging a question mark in as a comment, which means, would you please explain yourself? And the person's so freaking lazy they can only put in a question mark. Would you do that in real life? So the first thing I think we can do is we can start to clean up these ridiculous double standards and make our behavior consistent, whether we are online, offline, halfway in between, whether we're communicating with people in their presence, whether we're communicating with them remotely, to slow down and recognize that there's no one here but us humans. And of course, all the animals for which we are responsible for, and I'm happy to see people are being nicer to cats and dogs. This is a trend that I have noticed as the digital age continues. But really, the bottom line is, we must be more sensitive to one another. We must be more receptive with one another. And we must be more honest with one another. Okay, for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you for being a paying subscriber to Planet Waves. You can find lots more of me at the Astrology.Boutique. Have a look, it's beautiful. Astrology.Boutique. And I plan to return to you sometime on Friday evening with the new edition of Planet Waves FM. Signing off from New York at about 2:48 p.m. on the 8th of May. Lots of love, and bye for now.